Today on Law Weekly, our focus is on the suspended Ruga settlement of the federal government. We have the views of a senior legal practitioner, Robert Clarke, senior advocate of Nigeria. We also have another legal practitioner, Lola Vaivo Adeniyi, educate us on what the laws say about the offense of rape, plus our weekly recap of the top stories from the courts. That's the lineup on this episode of Law Weekly. Hello and welcome. I'm Shola Shoyeli. There's been so much talk about the Rural Grazing Area Initiative of the federal government, popularly called Ruga Settlement, a plan initiated to stop the roaming of cattle, which had been met with incidents of clashes between farmers and herdsmen. While some supported the initiative, many others argued that it is a scheme by the government of the day to reposition the Fulani tribe. The presidency had to defend the program, saying that the initiative was for the benefit of all and no state had been forced to partake in it. While the debate raged, the federal government suspended the program. The suspension was said to be a result of a lack of consistency with the National Executive Council (NEC) and FJ-approved National Livestock Transformation Plan. But there are those who feel that the Ruga settlement plan should be cancelled outrightly. I spoke to a senior advocate of Nigeria, Robert Clarke, to get his views, especially on the alleged constitutional violation of land laws inherent in the plan. I began first by asking his general views on the Ruga plan.
Firstly, one has to look at the history of ranching in Nigeria. Ranching has been with Nigeria before even Nigeria became Nigeria in 1914. When Calabar was the capital of southern Nigerian protectorate, ranching was being done by the colonialists at what they call the Obudu ranching. When Nigeria became self-governing in 1956 and regionalization came into being, Obudu Ranch was taken over by the East Regional Government. The Western government, led by Awolowo, decided to set up its own ranching at Ondo. The Saudana of Sokoto also decided to set up a ranching in Mokwa. During the military regime of Gawan, Audu Bako, the governor of Kano State, built a big ranch in Kano, the biggest in Africa. Unfortunately, Nigeria being what it is today, except for the Obudu Ranch, which has been helped a bit by Tinapa, the governor's creation of Tinapa, still exists. So ranching has been part of Nigeria. The incursion of herdsmen into Nigerian territory, to the southern territory, was not very, very clear then because of these ranches. So rather than bringing cattle into southern Nigeria, they distribute them to the ranches. But after the collapse of the ranches, they started now grazing into the southern. And they were following the Benue Trough column and the Savannah column. Then the population was not as big as now. Farming was not as large as it is. The population was not expanding urban-wise. So they had enough land and there were no problems. But with the boom in population, with the farmlands pumping out in states, the herdsmen now found difficulty in finding space to graze. And that is where the problem started. Let it be noted, during the first Obasanjo's regime, we had these problems. Every year, statistics, because I'm speaking through statistics, there had been series of clashes. That government did nothing for 8 years. Jonathan was in government for 7 years. 2014, look at statistics, was the year the greatest number of herdsmen were killed or farmers were killed. Jonathan did nothing. Unfortunately for Buhari, his regime now has been compounded by tragic killing because, one, outside Boko Haram, we now have these bandits from Zamfara and cattle rustlers. We now have kidnappers. We now have cultists. We now have everything now, creating a situation of panic in Nigeria. But one interesting point is this: before you criticize, I have seen many Nigerians. I was on television in your station, and I said we must have ranches. That is the only way solution. Many Nigerians have spoken on this. I have not seen one of them offer a solution. All we hear from big men in Nigeria, they want to Islamize, they want to do this. Nobody has offered. Even people who were in government for these years and were in full authority, executive power, have never mentioned a solution. This man has come now to say, okay, this is the solution. I am offering you every state that federal government's money will be pumped into the states to create ranches. If you want, take it. If you don't want, don't take it. You see, many lawyers have argued that the federal government can acquire land compulsory for agriculture. Land belongs under the Constitution to the governors. But no, there's a legal trick in it. The Constitution says agriculture is both on the concurrent list and on the exclusive list. That means the federal government can legislate on agriculture and can acquire lands for that purpose, because Section 5 of the Constitution puts all executive powers on the president. Now let me give an example. The pipelines. Pipelines are all, all over Nigeria on state lands. The federal government needs only to tell the state, I need line to pipe to, pass through your land. I need it for public use. But the question is the creation of ranches for public use? That is the vital question. Now there's a great divide in that. You may say it is not. I may say it is. But what is the type of ranching? If the federal government says, look, I want to create ranches in all the states. The structure is what I want to give to you. I give it to you states. You find ranchers who will come and, take possession. Then that is for public use. But if you now take it and you allow private people to run the ranches, then it is no more for public use. Therefore, that line is there. I'm not going to argue on that. But what Buhari has said is that, look, I am offering you this proposal. If you like, take it. If you like, you don't take it. Look at the advantage. If there are ranches, the average Fulani man whose sons at the age of 6, 7, 8 are grazing will no longer graze. The opportunity will be there for them to go to school. That is the first advantage. There will be now within your state an economic development. Many trades will come out from ranching. Dairy farming, whatever you call it, will start coming out. There will be employment. What I'm going to suggest, because I don't see all this, what these Arewa boys are talking about. I won't say they are stupid, no. But they are playing politics. How can you say that if you are not allowed to graze your cows into the south, then you will not allow? When what Buhari is proposing for you in the north is for the betterment of you people. Look at Taraba State. What else do they have more than agriculture? And look at them carrying placards yesterday that they want to steal our lands. So the problem is by politicians. They are the people causing all this. They are not educating their people. What Buhari is doing today is what the governors of every state should have been doing.
So where the states say that they have no land for allocation, can they be compelled to give up such lands?
They can be compelled if it's for public use. You see, public use overrides every other right. The law says if government wants to do something, like wants to build a cattle ranch, and is going to run it itself for public use, okay, it overrides anywhere it is. The federal government, look, I've just told you about the petroleum. There is no doubt the petroleum pipeline are for public use. That is clear. And that's why I'm saying that, but that federal government cannot acquire land is bullshit. Because the Constitution says it has the same powers on agriculture as the states. So when it legislates, it can't do it for nothing.
So what solutions can you suggest? How do you think that these issues can best be resolved going forward?
Forget all these politicians creating dissent and anything amongst us. What is good is good. What is bad is bad. If Buhari feels it is good, let him ask 9 governors in the north who are within his thinking, who are within his party rank, to accept it. And let them see, in 5 years' time, you will see the difference between these states. If Buhari can go back to the foundations laid by Zeke, Saudana and Awolowo, in creating ranches in the regions during their own period, and also what Audu Bako did in Kano, Nigeria will be greatly advancing economically and agriculturally.